My son, 25, introduced me to his fiancée, Sarah, 20. He informed me yesterday that he was about to marry her. He's dated her for about 7 months in total. I was introduced to her 2 months ago. I'll say it outright. I don't like Sarah. She's messy. And by messy, I mean she looks like she lives in a dumpster. Rude. She'll cuss you out when you eat the last of the chocolate, even if it's your chocolate, because she wanted it. Source: she did it to my daughter. I saw it with my own eyes. Wasteful and quite conceited. My son and she are banned from family gatherings after a particular incident. I told my son the truth when he asked for my honest opinion after meeting her. But in the end, he's an adult, and I don't control his life. So when he told me about the engagement, he asked me if I approved of her now, since it's been 2 months. I laughed a bit and told him, no, I don't. And he got mad and asked me why. So I gave him the following reasons. They're 20 and 25 and getting married, which I think is a bit too early, since they've known each other for around 7 months. Neither of them has a stable income or knows how to cook and clean, so they're hitting a disaster zone. They're not going to have a prenuptial. Again, I don't like her, but again, I told him he's an adult, so it's his choice. I told him that they were going to have to move out because I have 3 other underage kids to look after, and Sarah's not at all pleasant or kind to them, and that I won't support him or Sarah, only if they're in an emergency. Right now, I fully pay for and house him. He pays no rent, and he has a part-time job, and his monthly salary, if they budget it, will give him more than enough for essentials plus savings. Sarah owns her own apartment, so there is no rent, but it's a crappy place. Plus, I'm giving him an allowance and fully paying for his college, so there are no loans to worry about, but other than that, they have to figure something out themselves. I also told him not to expect me to pay for his wedding because A, they want a very extravagant one, and B, with the rising cost of living, I want to save enough money to ensure my youngest, who's in 8th grade right now, will have the same opportunities as him. He got mad at me and left. I recounted this to a few of my coworkers, and they think I'm in the wrong. So I have to come here to ask, am I the idiot? Edit. He was fine until he was 20, but then my husband passed away, and he changed a lot. He was given a clean bill of health, actually from around 3 different psychologists. They told me it isn't his father that's bothering him, but something else. I'm not sure what. He thinks he's going to inherit the house, so in his eyes, it's already his. It's actually going to my youngest. They also think I'll be a free maid for them. Not the idiot. All the examples you mentioned showed that he's still a kid. He's financially dependent on you for the housing, the living, the wedding. You don't like the girl, and they don't do anything to prove you wrong. He wants to be an adult. He has to behave like one and take over responsibility for his own life. You let him choose who to love, but you are allowed to be honest to him and that this girl is causing trouble for your family. Yes, right. What I can't wrap my head around is, what was this 25-year-old grown man imagining exactly? That he gets married and wifey just moves into his bedroom and together they mooch off of his mom? So he still wants to be a kid living under mom and dad's roof, but wants a wife? I can't laugh at this absurdity because I worry about their future. Your son is 25 and doesn't know how to clean or cook. He lives rent-free with mommy. You paid off his college and living expenses. What? There's a reason he gets along with a 20-year-old so well. You are the idiot for creating a 25-year-old dependent adult who cannot take care of himself and has no motivation to support himself. Maybe it would be worth reminding him of how much you're still financially supporting him at his big age of 25, since children, barring extenuating circumstances, typically start gaining footing in their independence in their early 20s. At the same time, he seems like he's not eager to make any steps towards that because he still expects you to keep providing for him and then some. I'm not suggesting stopping paying for his college, but if you're giving him fun money allowances, I think it's time to revoke that so he starts making up lost time and learning how to walk on his own 2 feet here. OP, is your son okay? This is not the behavior of a normal 25-year-old. He's old enough to have outgrown his adolescent lack of impulse control. He should be able to connect most actions with their consequences by now. Marrying a 20-year-old he's only known for 7 months and who's already alienated his entire family is a baffling choice for someone his age, especially since on some level, he still seems to crave your approval. It's extremely unlikely that deep, abiding love drives his decision. Something else is going on with him, and you can find out what it is before he goes through with this. I'm baffled as to why you haven't made the connection between his behavior and his father's sudden passing 5 years ago. I have tics, not Tourette's, due to neurological reasons. The 3 most prominent are gargling in my throat, a sucking sound I make, think someone sucking back a clam, and a licking sound. It gets worse when I eat or drink. I went to a coffee shop with my friend. I hesitate to go into public a lot. It was crowded and noisy, so I wasn't really bothering anyone, but the woman on a computer next to us. But since we were eating and drinking, my tics were happening a lot. After she stared and shuddered several times, I did tell her that I had something like Tourette's. I thought it would help her realize I wasn't trying to be rude. Exact opposite. When she realized I couldn't stop, she asked me to leave because she was working, and the sounds made her feel funny and made her think of bad memories. I told her no. She said she was there first and working, and we could take our stuff and walk around on this nice day outside. My tics were getting worse through this conversation. I told her that I wasn't leaving, and there was nowhere to move with it so crowded. She very angrily got up from the table and left, saying I was triggering her PTSD from traumatic memories with my tics. Am I the idiot for basically putting my tics over her trauma that my tics were triggering? Sounds like you were not the idiot. She was demanding someone with a neurological problem go somewhere else because she was working. It's a coffee shop, not an office. Would she ask a blind person to leave with their guide dog because she's allergic? Probably. People do this, like saying someone's walker makes too much noise. Please put it in your car. The absolute nerve of some people. OP, you have as much right to be there as she does. Her triggers are not your responsibility. You deserve to go out in public too. And she can carry headphones everywhere when she needs them. I get triggered by noise. I have PTSD, and loud noises that I'm not in control of is a strong trigger for me. Doesn't mean that I can go around demanding that the entire world accommodate me. I'm all for accommodating triggers with kindness when you can, but this wasn't it. She was in the wrong. Ultimately, I think it makes more sense for her to leave than you, since you can tolerate her being there, and she can't tolerate you. I, 36 female, have an older sister, 38. We don't live in the U.S. or any Western country. We come from a dual-income household, with both parents being high earners by middle-class standards. We used to be best friends when we were younger, but things started to turn bad when we were both in college. We both attended the same engineering college, just 1 year apart. While I was busting my butt to get top marks, my sister was shopping for a rich husband. She would take all the money our parents sent her, spend it on clothes and makeup, then beg me to lend her some of my allowance so she could afford necessities. I used to do that at first, but then I cut her off when I got fed up. That was the first crack. The second crack came when she didn't pass her classes, so she had to repeat her second year, 2nd out of 5. Then we were in the same class. Because we had the same major, we had the same schedule. Then professors started comparing us. I was usually 1st or 2nd in class, and she was near the bottom and had a habit of skipping class. The final crack came when she got a rich boyfriend, while I was dating a fellow classmate from a very poor background. She was constantly condescending, telling me how I would end up spending all my money on him and his low-income family, and that I should follow her example and get a rich husband. Finally, in our last year, she chose to drop out of school and marry her rich husband. They had a very grand wedding, and the bridal gifts he gave her included a BMW and enough gold to buy a small apartment. I married my husband after we graduated and worked for a year. We had a small wedding, 80 people, and my bridal gifts were modest, about what he made in a month. She started ridiculing him in front of his and our family, so my mom ended up kicking her out of the wedding. Fast forward to now. I have a tween son that goes to a private school. My husband and I own our house. We bought his parents an apartment, and we go on a vacation abroad twice a year. All to say we're living well. My sister's husband divorced her because he fell in love with a 20-something young woman. And because all his wealth actually belongs to his parents, she came out with a measly sum in child support, a lot of jewelry, and brand-name clothes in her car. It would have been enough to start her own business if she had been good with money, but she spent it all away, and now she's asking me for help to lend her money to start a small business. I told her absolutely not, but she tried to push. I blocked her everywhere, and she couldn't access my job or the gated community where we live. She's currently living with our parents, along with her 3 kids, and from what my mom is saying, they're also getting fed up with her, but she's having a really hard time, so am I the idiot? Not the idiot. She's a grown woman. She chose her life. Don't give her a dime. The fact that your life is going well doesn't make you obliged to be her benefactor, especially given her treatment of you over the years. She made her choices and is now reaping the consequences of her choices. She could go back to school, get a job, find another rich husband, etc. If you give her something now, I guarantee more money will be requested. She will not find a rich husband with 3 kids as baggage. And I'm sure she's past her prime for getting the look. She failed to plan for failure. And in her success, she rubbed it severely in her sister's face. This is similar to the tortoise and the hare. OP, you are not a bank. Yep, that's a bad investment. She's a leech. You don't need to allow her to suck you dry. Now, you bring up that it's your sister, all this history of how crappy she was to you, her crap attitude, etc. Sure, it makes the emotional burden go away slightly, but you were not the idiot from the beginning. If you aren't the idiot, then other people griping about your decision or actions still probably won't stop because they don't see your perspective and they have their own interest at heart. Nobody's going to advocate for you more than yourself. My girlfriend and I, both female 26, have a son who's just barely a toddler, and there was some major drama during the birth. For some context, I have chronic heart problems, and I've been struggling with it since birth. I had surgery as an infant, another at 7, and another at 15. I haven't needed one since, and I've been doing well all around. When my girlfriend was 6 months pregnant, I got really ill, which took a massive toll on my lungs and heart. I pulled through, but spent about a month in the hospital. I felt so awful that I couldn't be with my girlfriend, Jane, but she was super great with it. Then 2 days before the due date, I was rushed to the hospital due to fluid buildup around my heart. I had to get the fluid removed ASAP. When the fluid was all out, my brother-in-law visited me, and he told me Jane had given birth. I was both ecstatic and devastated. I had to spend another night under supervision, but as soon as I was allowed to leave, I went to the maternity wing to see my girlfriend and baby. At the time, all negative emotions were smothered by our bundle of joy, but over the months, Jane has been showing more and more resentment towards me. It came to a head last night during our date night. I planned the whole day. The baby had gone to grandma's, her favorite takeout, got all her favorite movies ready to play, had a spa evening planned, etc. But she wasn't feeling any of it. So I asked her what was wrong, and she said she was angry at me for missing the birth. I'll admit I didn't handle it as best as I wanted to, but we argued for a bit, and I ended up calling her selfish for saying that. Finally, I asked her if she understood the severity of the situation and that I was very ill. She got up and said she wouldn't let me patronize her, and she's never been disrespected like that before, and that she was going to bed. Am I the idiot? OP's dying in the delivery room, smiling sweetly as she held the baby, knowing she would live it through this sweet, perfect child. You have to admit, it's so romantic. Not the idiot. Does your girlfriend want you to die for her to have the perfect moment to tell her kid? I hope this drama is related to pregnancy hormones. Otherwise, good luck, because you have a long and difficult 18 years of passive-aggressive co-parenting. It could be postpartum depression, which can last for up to a year or even longer. Then add in a traumatic pregnancy and birth experience to complicate it. Obviously, OP couldn't be there, and clearly, both are hurt by that. I think this is it. I wonder if she had birth trauma, been there, and was lashing out. I've known many women who shove it all down deep while dealing with the immediate crisis of caring for a new human. Still, then at about 6 to 8 months postpartum, they get slammed out of nowhere with crippling PTSD symptoms. I belonged to a support group for it 20 plus years ago. The mom was being irrational and mean, but it was a symptom. Gonna have to disagree here. She doesn't get to be mad at her partner for having a life-threatening medical emergency and not being available for the birth. She can absolutely feel sad about that. OP isn't saying their situation was worse. OP just physically couldn't have been at the birth. We cannot justify guilt-tripping a partner because they were away for a life-threatening medical condition. It could still suck for her, but suggesting she's hurt because OP wasn't there suggests that OP should have been there, life or death. Any rational human being who had to give birth without their partner there would not be guilt-tripping them over it a year later. This sounds pretty toxic to me. I have an infant son, best kid in the entire world. We're at a neighborhood park, not a dog park, and all dogs are supposed to stay leashed. And my son, my wife, and I are having a picnic. It's going great. Baby's on a big blanket and having the time of his life, rolling around, playing, and giggling. It's a blast seeing him so happy. We're semi-near a walking path. The next thing I know, there are a pair of puppies coming right at us. They're unleashed, and their owner's just standing on the walking path, looking at them as they run towards us. I didn't notice them until they were pretty much on our blanket. At that point, I picked up my son and yelled, "What the heck?" to the guy. He looked appalled that I didn't enjoy the stunt his dogs and he pulled. My wife is yelling at him. I'm yelling at him. I straight up say, "I hate your dogs. Can you get them?" His puppies are just sitting on our blanket, expecting to get petted. I start walking toward the guy and yelling at him to get his dogs. He starts getting mad at us. He says that they're friendly and just want to play. They aren't going to hurt anyone. I tell him he just ruined our lunch. He excuses his and his dog's behavior by saying that they're puppies. I don't care. I just want him and his dogs gone. I'm just cussing at him continuously. He's telling me to calm down, but I'm hot. I continue cussing, and he finally grabs his two dogs and is like, "Who doesn't like puppies?" He finally left, but he ruined our lunch. In hindsight, I may have been too aggressive with him. Am I the idiot? Everyone's the idiot here. Him for having the dogs unleashed and not removing them immediately. But you're the bigger idiot for the entire over-the-top ridiculous reaction. You sat there repeatedly cussing at someone in front of your child. You're teaching him how to react to people, even at his young age. He learned that relatively minor incidents are approached with anger and verbal assaults. You're also teaching him to hate and likely fear dogs, and you. This is funny. It is clear that the dog owner is the idiot here from keeping his dogs unleashed and not removing his dogs on request. But everyone here is trying to make OP the idiot as well because, God forbid, who doesn't like puppies? The only excuse to make OP look bad is cussing at someone in front of your child. The child is an infant. He doesn't care and doesn't understand. If the child does understand, it would be a good lesson for life to stand up for overbearing, no boundaries, no considerations for anyone else, idiot dog owners. OP, you are not the idiot. If a couple of puppies just being in his immediate vicinity caused him to freak out and start screaming like a lunatic, I'd say he probably overreacts a lot in life and probably finds himself in these types of situations often. It's fine not to like dogs and not want them near you, and the owner should have had them leashed. But by OP's own account, The dogs weren't behaving badly, weren't jumping or trying to steal food. They simply came over to him, and that ruined his whole day? OP clearly has trouble regulating his emotions. OP, you are the idiot, and get some therapy.